The Arctic, a sanctuary for people and nature and home to many indigenous peoples and animals. Climate change is happening here 3 times faster than in the rest of the world. A region where scientists from East and West conducted joint research until Russia invaded Ukraine. Research continues, but almost all collaborations with Russia are on hold. Currently, Norwegian ships, as part of NATO, are having to strengthen their capabilities using sonar to locate the positions of an increasing number of Russian submarines which are stationed on the Kola Peninsula, just across the border from Norway.
The geopolitical significance of the region is increasing due to climate change and easier access to economic resources. We also have to take into account that the Arctic plays a major role for Russia's geostrategic plans to revise the European security architecture.
Observations that the Konrad-Adenauer Foundation shares with its partner, the Fridtjof-Nansen-Institute, Norway. In Bodø, the European Capital of Culture 2024, they are inviting scientists to identify the current challenges in the Arctic.
From a Norwegian perspective, the main concern that Norway has in the Arctic is Russia. It's how to deal with possible Russian aggression, it's how to deal with Russian military expansion on the Kola Peninsula, and it's how to avoid tension in the north.
The Russian invasion of Ukraine has had implications for Iceland's foreign policy. Icelandic foreign policy is more focused on security than before, and that also has its implications in the Arctic region.
Finland is a brand new NATO member state and a frontline country in a volatile international situation. And when it comes to the Arctic, of course, that is a key theater for Russian military development and a key theater for Finland for sure.
According to experts, Russia has a considerable military advantage over the NATO member states in the Arctic. Even if tensions with Russia should ease one day, there is still one challenge facing all Arctic countries.
Arctic is significantly impacted by the effects of climate change, and therefore there is need for scientific cooperation and collaborations between different Arctic states to be able to map out the possible scenarios in terms of how climate change can impact social and local lives, but also it could catalyze economic growth. So, for example, Kiruna could become a more attractive employer in the future, and also space sector. It could become a main source of labor and employment for people in Sweden, but also across Europe.
The first rocket carrying a satellite will be launched from Lapland as early as 2025. This is of great importance, not only for Sweden, but also for Europe. The Arctic Ocean is also becoming increasingly busy due to climate change. Russia and China in particular are hoping for a navigable northeast passage as an alternative trade route. Greenland, which is severely affected by global warming, also wants to adapt to the changing world climate. The potential extraction of rare raw materials could bring great economic benefits. But as here in Kvarnefjeld, the extraction of such raw materials is highly controversial. One thing is already clear: Greenland wants to use the predicted consequences of climate change to further advance its independence from Denmark.
I think there's a broad wish across Greenland in moving towards independence. It doesn't necessarily mean independence tomorrow, but there's an aspiration towards independence at some point in the future. And for Greenland, it means practicing foreign policy competence and showing foreign policy competence.
However, despite all the efforts towards independence, Greenland and the other Arctic countries are united in their desire to face the current threat together.
We, as CAS Nordic countries, have conducted 8 surveys over the last 4 years in Greenland, Norway, Iceland, and the Faroes. And they clearly show a strong commitment to NATO, and also the support of a closer cooperation between the Nordic institutions and also between the Arctic states and the European Union.
But how is the European Union reacting to the Arctic countries' desire for more cooperation with the EU?
There's more and more talk about geopolitics and security in the Arctic, also in Brussels and within the European Union. The main problem I see the European Union has, the European Union is indeed in the Arctic, but is the Arctic also in Europe. So more Arctic debate outside the Arctic is also needed.
Scientists still have a lot of educational and research work to do before the Arctic is firmly anchored in the consciousness of Europe as a whole. The Konrad-Adenauer Foundation will continue to support them in the future.